Sat where you're sitting. I went to grade school here. It was Sacred Heart. We put our plays on up here. So I'm very much a part of this parish and have been for many years, even though I was born in Louisville. I didn't come to school here. So the Sacred Heart was a big part of it. Father Kellogg, you didn't have him in your picture, and he was the priest in Louisville, and he told us one day, we were in grade school, he was going off to the missions. And we couldn't believe it. Why would he want to leave us and go there? We couldn't understand it as kids. But he planted the seed at that time of being a missionary. We thought, wow, he's going so far away. It was going to be 5 years before we saw him again. You know, 5 years was a very long time when you're in grade school. So we thought we'd probably never see him again. So he planted the seed. Then I went to Massena Central. I didn't go to Holy Family because Holy Family did not have any sports programs for women or girls. So my brother went to Holy Family, my sister went to Holy Family, but I went to Massena Central because I wanted to play golf, and that's what I was going to do in life. So when I graduated from Massena Central, I did want to be a professional golfer, but my parents said, well, you should have something to fall back on if you don't make it on the tour. So I went to Onondaga because my grandfather was a dentist. So I thought, well, I'll become a dental hygienist. Just to have something to fall back on when I get off the tour, and if I have to work at it, that's what I'll do. So I went to Onondaga, Syracuse, New York, and then I graduated, went off to California to become a professional golfer, and they wanted me to work at playing golf. Well, that wasn't fun. I liked to play golf. I didn't want to work at playing golf. So then I decided I joined the Peace Corps. Tom Robillard, who was a friend of mine from Massena, was somewhere in Africa, so I requested when I joined the Peace Corps, send me to Africa. I'd find her over there somehow, you know, but that's where I wanted to go. And so they sent me to Quito, Ecuador. And so I didn't even know where Ecuador was, and so I had to look it up, and I ended up in Quito, Ecuador, and that's where I met the Sisters of Charity of the Blessed Virgin Mary. And then I left Ecuador to become a sister, and then I was missioned in Ecuador for 43 years as Peace Corps and then as a sister. So that's my story. And the finger there is, I thought I was making all the decisions. And I realized it was God through it all, picking all these different places for me to go and to be. We are all missionaries. I don't want you sitting there comfortable thinking, well, we're going to hear about her journey and her story. We are all missionaries by our baptism. We've been sent. We've been sent to different places, but we're all missionaries. Pope Francis, when he addressed the bishops of Latin America, he talks about mission as a way of the heart. He went on to explain the meaning of a church in permanent state of mission. And I quote, "The gospel of Jesus, who, proceeding from the Father, journeys with his disciples through the fields and the towns of Galilee. His journeying is not meaningless. As Jesus walks, he encounters people. When he meets people, he draws near to them. When he draws near to them, he talks to them. And when he talks to them, he touches them with his power. When he touches them, he brings them healing and salvation." End of quote. So the mission of each of us must be carried out on one-to-one contact. We are all missionaries. And we must always be in a permanent state of mission, encountering the people in our daily lives, in our communities, in our work, in our parishes, and bringing Jesus alive. So don't be comfortable. Everybody should be telling their story. We are all missionaries. Missionary disciples. Pope Francis stated in his Joy of the Gospel, every Christian is a missionary, to the extent that he or she has encountered Christ Jesus. We no longer say that we are disciples and missionaries, but rather we are always missionary disciples. The Year of Faith, 50 years after the beginning of the Second Vatican Council, this is from Pope Francis, motivates the entire church towards a renewed awareness of his presence in the contemporary world and its mission among peoples and nations. Missionary spirit is not only about geographical territories, but about peoples, cultures, and individuals, because the boundaries of faith do not only cross places and human traditions, but the heart of each person, each man and woman. So that's our call, to be missionaries, to bring Christ alive wherever we are. Now, when I was going to Ecuador, I didn't know where it was. And my mom also was geographically challenged. So if she heard anything about Nicaragua, she'd say, it must be right next to me. You know, so I'd have to show people where Ecuador is. Okay, it's underneath Colombia, on top of Peru. It's that little tiny country over there. We have the Galapagos Islands, belong to Ecuador. And there are about 17 million people in Ecuador. In Quito, as you see, is the capital. That's where I was, in Quito, Ecuador. That is 9,300 feet above sea level. This is Quito. There's 3 million people in Quito, but you're right in the Andes Mountains. You're 9,300 feet above sea level. It's springtime year-round. We have 5 snow-capped volcanoes that surround the city. If you happen to want to deal with the snow, you never have to deal with the snow. You can see it, it's beautiful, but you don't have to play in it. And you don't have to shovel it. And it's just springtime. And you never feel like you're in a city that's 3 million people, because it's 35 miles long between the mountain ranges. And a mile on either side, going either direction, and you're out of the city. So that's Quito, that's the capital. We have the highlands in Ecuador. That's Cotopaxi, the most beautifully shaped, still active volcano in the world, which was very active a few years ago. We have the Crater Lakes. We have the ocean, the Galapagos Islands. Darwin's theory was established there. Many people come. That's the Galapagos, that's the huge turtle that's named after the islands. And we have the rainforest. It's always raining in the rainforest. And then we have the jungle. The kids love this when I tell them about the snakes and the spiders and all the different things when I do the kids at school. When I first went there, I met Father Halligan. He's a Jesuit from the Bronx, New York. Now you can take the boy out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the boy. And so when he first went there, he decided to work with the street kids, the tough little kids in the street. He loved working with his kids because they were helping the families. All kids worked. And they provided between 15 and 85% of the family budget by working in the streets, shining shoes. They weren't stealing, they weren't robbing people, they were working. And there was dignity in their work. When I left Ecuador, we left the center. Before we had the Working Boys Center where we worked with families and we worked with 2,000 people every day. Provided 3 meals a day, 6 days a week for 2,000 people. All medical care, all dental care, all technical education for everybody. But when the new Jesuit provincial took over, he decided that just wanted it to be a school. And we thought why we were unique is because we worked with the whole family. And it was important to work with the whole family, because if you just work with the kids, everything you teach during the day gets undone when they go home at nighttime if you haven't educated the parents too. So it's very important. So we started a new program. It's Happy Families for Change, working families happy for change. We found an old abandoned school. This is in 2014. We found this old abandoned school that they couldn't keep it going. So we would rent this place, and somebody gave us a great donation of orange paint. So they didn't want the orange paint, so we used the orange paint, got it all fixed up. So that's our new place that we are now attending to new families that come to it. Because we want to work with the family and we want to teach values to the family. Now, who comes to the center? I could show you millions of very poor places, just like Sister Deb did. And I could tell you horror story after horror story, being there for 40-some years, of what it's like to live and work with the poor. And what it does to a person from the inside, the poverty that they live in. But I'm not going to do that. I want you to go away hopeful tonight of what can be done. Now, who comes to the center right now? As she mentioned, Venezuela is in terrible shape. We have 500,000 Venezuelans have come across the border. In 1 week, 50,000 came because of what's happening in Venezuela. Now, these people are living in the streets, they're living anywhere there's some place to keep them out of the rain at nighttime, because it's the rainy season. So there are many of them there. They'll come, but they want a handout. And we're not interested in a handout. You're going to feed them, of course, because they've got the kids and the families and they need to eat. But you want to get them into a program where it's developmental, where they're learning the values, they're getting an education, and they are empowered to make the choices that they can get out of their poverty and not do it for them. You have to educate them, help them to make the choices to leave the poverty behind. Now these are the kids live in the garbage dumps, like she showed you. I've been to the garbage dumps many times. They have to keep moving their houses because as more garbage comes in, you have to put new tents up, keep moving it. And they're recycling everything that comes in. They go through the garbage. But I use this picture with the kids too, and I say, now he's not sad. He's saying, see those kids, they're going to help us. And the kids love it. They don't know why they're so dirty. So I explain that they come to the center, they take a shower at the center, and they can be empowered at the center, and you don't know that that's what they live in. But I think what we need to stress is the joy. When I have the story of this little kid, he's 4 years old, come running down the hill this one morning when I'm going up from where we live. She yelled, Madre, you gotta see my new shoes. And he's 4. And I said, oh, you got new shoes. And he's so excited, so joy-filled. And I looked down and he's got these green sneakers. Now they're way too big for him. And the way I know they're way too big for him is because a newspaper is coming out of the hole in the toe. He had stuffed him with newspaper. But he was so excited. And that's the joy I think we all look for, that accepting what we have and being joyful with what we have. They were new sneakers to him. I have another story about shoes too, which shows you working in a third world country, what it's like. I received a donation of 2,000 pairs of new shoes. They're men's shoes. There are 3 different designs of men's shoes. I was so excited. This was a month before Christmas. So everybody was going to get a pair of new shoes. They had big, thick soles. Came in a box that said Italian leather. Each shoe inside was in a little cloth bag. Inside the box was a little plastic shape of a shoe that you opened up and it had a piece of sponge in it so you could buff these shoes. And it had a little shoe horn. And a plastic bag with a whole box in this bag of new shoes. I thought, oh, wow. So excited with these new shoes for the kids. I think every kid's going to get new shoes at Christmas time, and all the dads are going to get new shoes, and we can give them away, they can sell them, they can make, 2,000 pairs of shoes, what am I going to do with them? So I decided, we had a big anniversary. So I said, well, we'll take 50 pairs of shoes, and the kids can earn these shoes. So during the anniversary party, we had the climbing of the grease pole, and all these different things. They had to sweat, they had to do all these things, they had to have 10 prize tickets to get a pair of shoes. So they came in and they're dirty and they're sweaty, but they're so excited. And I had 3 different chairs for them to sit down and try these different shoes on. And so excited. So at the end of the day, we have a dance of our big birthday party. So they came to the dance. I said, where are the shoes? And he said, well, they fell apart. So what do you mean they fell apart? The top part, the leather, was not leather. It was not sewn to the bottom part. The bottom part had all the holes in it for trafficking drugs. There were 2,000 pairs of shoes that were made that were going to be for trafficking drugs. Now I had 2,000 pairs of shoes that I didn't know what to do with. I couldn't give them to the kids would sell them. And so we have a terrible name with all these shoes. So we ended up actually we said, well, maybe a morgue. The guy's not going anywhere. He could have some new shoes or whatever. They look good on the way out. But we didn't do that. We gave them to a school that was going to put in a new basketball court, so they ground up all of this, the great leather and the rubber that was the soles of these shoes. So it's almost, but not quite, when you work in a third world country. It looks good on the outside a lot of times, but it's not exactly what you're saying. Programs at the center that we have now at the new place is we feed breakfast and lunch. We'll have dinner in the future when we have enough money to supply dinner. We have medical attention for all the families and all the medicines. It doesn't cost them anything, so that they can get taken care of. We have computer, English, art, religion classes, healthy recreation, developmental sessions with the whole family. The families have to come. We have after-school help with homework, spiritual guidance and the sacraments, and this is a good Jesuit term, obligatory volunteerism. You're going to help with dishes and you're going to love it. Everybody helps out in the spirit of family. That's a new medical office that we just put in at the school. That's our schedule for Mass, 12:15, breakfast, Monday to Friday, 7 to 8, in case your Spanish isn't good, I'm just telling you. Lunch, Saturday, we have breakfast 8 to 9. You get to sleep in on Saturday, and breakfast is at 8 to 9, and then lunch is 12:45 on Saturdays after Mass. This would be breakfast. They'll come in, they'll have oranges or bread or eggs. We have eggs once a week. We never let them know which day we're serving eggs, so they'll come for breakfast every day because we want them to be have the nourishment. But this shows you that spirit of generosity that Deb was talking about. One year, we had not made pay in 6 months. We had 100 people that we paid, was when we paid. But we had 100 people working for us, and we had not received donations. And so we were way behind. So in the morning, we'd get up and decide, okay, if we're going to have coffee today, we have to buy sugar, because they won't drink coffee without sugar. Or if we make bread, we can't have coffee because we'll buy the flour. And so it was like that, and we were just 6 months of wondering, asking God, what is it? You want us to think about programs? You want us to change something? Are we not doing something you want us to do? And really searching what the direction would be. And so the people started bringing in little tiny bags of sugar. And they'd sit down, they'd know the day we're going to have flour and have bread. So the people brought these little tiny bags of sugar, and you'd see them sharing with each other. And sharing and having the coffee. And so it was a spirit of, they didn't have much, but they shared what they did have. And that cost them money to buy that sugar. And so they brought the sugar in, and then we could do the bread. But showing how God blessed us, 3 days before Christmas. We hadn't made pay in 6 months. We didn't know what we were going to do. It's Christmas time, 100 people on staff. We got a phone call. Somebody had died in California. We didn't know this person. The person used to send $25 a month. They left us in their will the exact amount we needed to get to January 1st and pay all the debts. And we said, some people don't believe there's a God. We knew God's hand was in it. And okay, we could start over and get in debt again, but we always ended up in the black because people at the end of the year would help us. But it is this inspiring to see how they shared with each other. She's making the soup. And that little stove that she's working on is one of our graduates from our technical education made that stove for us because we have technical education programs for the kids at the old place. And so he made us our stove. That's getting ready to serve lunch. It probably would not get insured here in the States if you had him standing on a chair to make the soup. But in Ecuador, you don't have to worry about some of these things. Don't ask, you're fine. So they're having lunch, they have breakfast, lunch, they help each other. They come for the sessions, they have their classes, they have their games. We have music, we play at Mass, healthy recreation for the family. And they are a joyful people. You'll have young people, as she said. We have many young high school groups that come, college groups that come and spend time with us. You just take them on a house visit. You don't have to preach at the kids at all. Let them see how the rest of the world lives. And they are changed by the experience. We had a young girl from a Catholic high school from Milwaukee, and she came and I said, hey, how did you like the house visit? She said, Madre, she said, before I came, I wanted these designer jeans, these $200 designer jeans. I said, you can pay $200 for jeans? And she said, yeah. And she said, I wanted these, and Mom brought me an imitation jeans that were not $200. And I told my mom, you can just take those right back to the store. I'm not going to wear them. And she said, after that house visit today, she said, I'm going to tell my mom, I don't need any jeans. I already have so many more jeans than these kids ever are going to have, that I don't need it. And I don't want to be selfish like that anymore. She said, these kids have joy. And everything we're searching for joy, we can't find. And we have everything, and they have nothing. And so it's important for young people to see how the rest of the world lives. I had this high school kid from Regis High School in New York, and he was a big football player. And I said to him, how'd you like the house visit? And he said, I'll come home from football practice, I'll go into the kitchen, I'll open the refrigerator, I'll say, there's nothing in this house to eat. And he said, I'll slam the refrigerator door shut and go to my room. Mom maybe just went to the grocery store, but it wasn't what I wanted to eat. He said, they don't have a refrigerator. They don't have any food. They don't have anything. He said, I'll never do that to my mother again. I realize now we have plenty to eat. So, never have to preach it to kids. Just take them out of house visit. Have them help build the house with our families. And they're changed. So that's healthy recreation. And then we have Mass every day at the center. That's Father Halligan, who founded the center back in 1964. He went to Ecuador in 62. We have, those are our promises for Lent. Everybody puts in a promise and we burn them at the end of Lent to light the new candle. Burning our promises that we said we would do during Lent and we try to do during Lent, and then we burn them. Nobody else has to know that we didn't do it or whatever, you know. But we try. And so we have, we teach the sacraments, learning the sacraments, and have the sacraments at the center too, as well as development. We insist that poverty is a spiritual problem. There's a different way of looking at poverty. Oftentimes we think of poverty as just needing money, throw some money on it, and the problem is going to go away. And it doesn't. Unless you empower the person to change from within, they're not going to get out of their poverty. Because poverty has destroyed them from within. They do not think they're ever going to be successful. They do not think they can change. None of us want to change. But they need the education. They need to know that they can. They are loved. And they can be empowered and they can change their lives and other people's lives. They too are missionaries. They too have to help others get out of their poverty. And so we insist it's a spiritual problem. Empowering them to know they can change, and people who have money is a spiritual problem for everybody who has something to share. Who do you share with? How much do you share? Everybody has a handout. Yeah, look at your junk mail that comes in every day. Everybody. And there's so many needs, so many causes, good causes, that need money. So you have to think, who do you help? How do you help? With how much do you help? You might help being a volunteer. Not financially, but praying for the missions, praying for people. That helps. So it's a spiritual problem. Foundation values, we're trying to teach loyalty in a country that's like #1 in corruption in South America. Ecuador was #1 in corruption. So try to teach loyalty. That when you say yes, you mean yes. No, you mean no. And not yes here, no there, whatever, just to get by. Personal formation, taking charge of your life, not blaming it on anybody else. I can be empowered if I make the changes in my life. It's hard to change. If I've never gone to school, a woman who's 40 years old who's never gone to school, she's been told she can't read, she can't learn to read. She was dropped on her head when she was 2. She can't learn. That's because they put the boy in school, her brother, but she didn't get to go to school. So she's grown up with this mentality that she can't do it. So you gotta overcome a lot of things. Personal formation. Working with a family. You gotta work with, however they're living in that little shack, that's the family you deal with. His kids, her kids, their kids, whatever it is, that's the family you're gonna try to empower to make the changes so that they can become the missionaries that God wants them to become. Education, of course, is key to all of it. Religion. Why did you make the changes? So that we can all help each other. Who doesn't feel good when you're helping each other? You know, we help build each other's houses. That's what you saw on the slide before. On Sundays, we would go out and build each other's houses. They can't help each other financially, but there's not a woman I work with who doesn't know how to mix and throw cement. And we can build you a 3-bedroom house with a living room and a dining room and a kitchen in 6.5 hours. It's not a house any one of us would want to live in, but they would love it. First of all, just not having it be a single room. Everybody's in the same bed. Just all the problems that you have with that in a family. So those are the values we're trying to teach. Recreation, healthy recreation, economy, learning to save money. We always have them saving money. Even though they're poor, they waste money. So we have them always learn to save. Learn to manage your money. Don't let your money manage you. And then health and housing. You've got to be saving for better housing. And this is obligatory volunteerism. Everybody in the family helps out once a week at the center. To feel part of something, and you don't feel like you're just being given a handout, you are participating in your own development, you're helping others. And so we all do dishes, we sweep the floor, we do whatever needs to be done. And then we have sessions, developmental sessions with the families every week. So the challenges that we have are feeding the people. We want to get the dinner Teachers, more teachers for educational programs, technical school. We do want to start a new technical school. In the future, we'll have to build a new place to do that. And we want to complete the bathrooms. Now, you think bathroom, this was that school, which was a high school and a grade school. They had 2 bathrooms. That stall with the door with the stripes was the women's bathroom. The urinal over here was the guy's bathroom. That was it for the whole school when we got this building. So then, of course, we thought, well, we'll just put some bathrooms in. You know, simple. No, you're in Ecuador. There's nothing simple. You dig this out by hand, remember? You've got a hammer and you've got a chisel, and you dig that out, because what we found out is the drainage that we had from that one bathroom just went into a hole underneath the school. It didn't go anywhere. And so we decided we should probably have it go someplace if we're going to have that many people there again. So we dig it all out, we work it all out, and we're going to have new bathrooms and showers to be completed soon. We have a company in Ecuador that gave us all the sinks and the showers for our new bathrooms. So they're going to be installed, so we will have bathrooms, because they are going to be dirty unless they can be clean. And so it's not, people poor as being dirty. Well, you are going to be dirty if you don't have any water. So you do need to have places where you can get a shower and feel good about yourself. And you teach them, change of underwear, all that kind of stuff. Real basic stuff that we all learn as kids. So obligations they have: learning to manage their money, educational programs, attending the educational programs, moms, dads, getting out of their poverty includes you've got to get an education to make better choices. Weekly sessions with everybody to learn the values, because you can't just talk about the values, you have to put the values in practice. And so how are you going to do that? Serving others in and out of the center, and taking a shower. Thank you. Questions, or ready to go home?
So what was your actual job at the center?
I was a director of the center. There were a team of us, 6 of us, who worked as a team. So I taught baking, I taught carpentry, small carpentry, and I taught kids religion classes, and I taught computer classes, and I did counseling, and I visited the houses.
Did you teach golf?
I didn't teach golf. I never swung a club in Ecuador. Now, at 9,300 feet above sea level with a high compression ball, you get 60 extra yards off your drive, so they tell me. But I never swung a club there. Yes?
Do you see any substance abuse problems?
With alcohol. You wouldn't have drugs. The kids will, now that they can't work, the laws have changed so they can't work, so what will happen is they'll go into illegal things like trafficking drugs and different things. Before, when they worked, yeah, it was great. When we think work, little flags go, oh, the poor little kids shouldn't have to work. These kids had the world by the tail. They had money in their socks. They always had money hidden for themselves. They always had money for mom, and they always had money to save. And these little guys would come in, 8, 9 years old. They'd come into the center, and the little sister wants an ice cream. It would be a big shot. And buy his little sister an ice cream. So you didn't have abuse like that. The parents, because of the situation, alcohol would be, you always had somebody beat up, or they have to find someplace to stay the night because dad's not in good shape or mom's not in good shape. So yeah, and so you do a lot of counseling with that. Why are they drinking? If they get an education, get a job, and actually, can get out of it, they will. It's not that they're alcoholics as much as it's just an escape. And if I had to go home to that every night, I think I'd have a bottle of wine, I think I'd do something.
The weather being always spring, so
Beautiful.
it's not possible to plant garden.
Oh, year-round. Ecuador could feed Latin America because we can grow year-round. We have every kind of crops, and we could give them all the potatoes they need, the corn they need, vegetables they need, the rice they need, because we grow year-round. Every stage of development of corn you see across the country. Some people are just planting it, some people are just harvesting it, because it grows year-round. And so actually, the food, Ecuador could feed Latin America. It was managed well. That's how rich the land is. But right now, China owns Ecuador. You see in the news just last week, Ecuador is in terrible straits. There's a lot of violence and rioting in the streets, and because of the influx of Venezuelans too, plus they want to raise the price of gas. Venezuela used to refine our gasoline. Ecuador's an oil-producing country, but you need to send it out to be refined, and they can't do that anymore. So they need to raise the price. But China owns two of the islands, the Galapagos Islands, have been put up as collateral for the loans that China has given to Ecuador. And you've got some towns now in Ecuador, in the southern part of Ecuador, that everything's in Chinese first and Spanish second, because they're mining the copper. They burned out the Shuar Indians because they needed that area for mining the copper. How about a cookie? Thank you for coming tonight.